Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? It is day 30 of RPG A Day 2017, August 30th. Can't believe it's almost over. It really doesn't feel like it's been that long. And so our question for today is, what is an RPG genre mashup you would most like to see? And this is a question that gave me trouble for a little bit. I thought about it for a few days. I just kind of looked at the question and said, man, I wonder. Because a lot of it's been done already. In fact, what I'm going to tell you probably has already been done. And maybe that's great. Maybe you'll say, hey, Ivan, this game does that. Awesome. Or something like it. I'm sure there's a lot out there that do something like it. But, if you're like me, you kind of make up little stories in your head all the time. And some of them are kind of genre mashups one way or the other. And some of these see fruition in terms of campaigns. We make up little games. And some of them just kind of fall by the wayside. This is something that I just kind of thought up in the past day or two. Maybe last day, really. And it sounded kind of interesting, so I figured I'd jot it down. And maybe I'll use it in the campaign someday. Maybe there's a game that already does this, or maybe I'll just apply a system like Ubiquity or something else to it. Not sure what, but I'm kind of liking it at the time, for the time being. And so I figured instead of having me explain it to you, I'll have Karen explain it to you. So who the hell is Karen? Well, Karen is the accessibility program in my iPhone, and I didn't really like the American sounding voice, so I downloaded the Australian voice, which is Karen. And she reads a lot of RPGs to me. In fact, nowadays, I hear a lot of RPGs in her voice because oftentimes I've gotten a PDF. I've gotten a PDF in a book, but I've been busy. I go to the gym, I ride the bike, I do whatever. I'm driving my car, and I listen to Karen read me the RPG, or as much of it as she can. She doesn't do so good with tables, I'll tell you that. That gets kind of comical to hear her talk about those. But, yeah, I figured, what the heck? I'll have Karen explain this idea to you. And so, here we go.
It's the future, Earth's future, maybe 100 or 200 years from now. The overall tone of the game is dark, not apocalypse world or road warrior dark. No, not like that. More like that overdeveloped and bleak feeling you get from watching Blade Runner or Alien. But wait, even though things are dystopian, it's not so oppressive that you just want to give up. Not yet. There's a bit of the teetering on the edge feeling where the population might collapse under its own weight, or, with some luck, humanity just might pull a rabbit out of the hat and survive. Kind of like Earth in the time of Elijah Bailey, or the central planet Tranta when Hari Seldon was young. Stuff could go either way, What's more, there is just a bit of mirth around the edges.
Thank God.
Like the feeling in the overcrowded Earth in The Fifth Element. Sure, it's going to hell, but not all the crazy is bad crazy. Some Bis Corbin Dallas or Jack Burton funny. Badass toting a loaded shotgun crazy, but funny. Just enough to keep you from curling up into a little ball and sucking your thumb. In many ways, man's dreams of a technological future have come true, and thank God they did. There were so many of us that Earth was coming apart at the seams. Interstellar travel is a reality, yeah, even faster than light starship drives. Artificial intelligence crossed the boundary and became self-aware. Synthetic people, androids, they exist, and so far they haven't given us any of the trouble that the doomsayers predicted. Well, mostly. Ansibles make instantaneous communication across interstellar distances possible. There are even matter transporters after a fashion. Not really good for beaming down to a planet's surface except if you are just talking about a person, and they don't always show up alive when beamed from a ship in orbit.
Ouch.
But if you have enough money, you can safely transport yourself across the surface of the planet in the blink of an eye. Funny thing is, nobody is really sure why all these things work. Sure, people worked on the technology. A lot of design and mathematical theories went into them. But if you ask the experts, they will become real uneasy, and, if they trust you, they just might tell you that the prototypes worked long before they should have. Most people are blissfully ignorant of this. They have no idea of the truth. Stuff works and that's good enough for them. Sounds idyllic and utopian, right? Well, don't forget that people are involved. Add human greed and depravity to a technological utopia and you get an oppressive society that runs on batteries. More on the setting later. What are the characters like? What are they up to? Glad you asked. Well, life is still hard despite the amenities. Player characters are capable, a little bit above normal, with those moments where they become extraordinary. Maybe the player characters are the real independent type. Or maybe they work for the man. Ultimately everybody works for the man anyhow. Big corporations control everything. Nothing has really changed. That's just the way it is. Characters might be prospectors, interstellar scavengers and tomb raiders, crew and hires on corporate ships like the Nostromo. Maybe they are members of an unlikely grouping like in Jaws, or a ragtag group of misfits like in Firefly. Or maybe they are a lawman like in Blade Runner or Logan's Run. Maybe they are Marines. Yeah, Marines. For a long time we thought we were alone. We traveled the stars and found no one else on the road. Sure, we found ancient relics of vanished civilizations, but no indigenous populations above Stone Age technology. Real pushovers. If we wanted a planet, we took it. We just kept that out of the news. Then, we stumbled across that other race. 3 meters tall and all attitude. Think Alien meets the bugs from Starship Troopers meets the insect race from Ender's Game. Except these bugs were a lot worse than the 3 put together and really freaking hated us with a passion. No communication with them has ever been possible. Maybe we're just too different. But the bastards got the message across anyhow. We both shoot on sight. So, there is plenty for player characters to do and to explore. They can be an independent or hired crew of a starship with the kind of camaraderie found in Jaws or in Firefly. The relationships between them could be more strained like an Alien, or their interactions could have the defiant levity seen in The Fifth Element. Characters could be soldiers fighting bugs, or they could be a bunch of Lara Croft-style interstellar tomb raiders, exploring the ruins of long-vanished races for technology and artifacts like Indiana Jones in a spacesuit. A character could even be an artificial person, although that comes with a lot of stigma and prejudice, and maybe worse. Doesn't sound like much of a genre mashup, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Aside from combining elements of different existing stories, it really wouldn't be, except for the magic. Yeah, magic. Right when the breakthroughs in artificial intelligence and faster-than-light travel were happening, right then, some people began to display unusual abilities. Unusual. That's an understatement. Really totally freaking strange. When the change occurred, the specific manifestation and degree of power varied depending upon the individual. Some were able to master it, a lot more just burned out. The corporation sent out teams to bring these individuals in for safekeeping and study. Some teams were successful, and their quarry was never heard from again. Other extraction teams died horribly. Messing with one of the changed that knows just what the heck they are doing is not exactly highly recommended.
Nope.
Call it psionics, psychic powers, or just plain magic. People with this talent can warp the hell out of reality. Like Doctor Strange and Rivertan taking a stroll through the Matrix, except this is real life. Well, maybe. Who knows? Sometimes they can control it, and sometimes they can't. When they can't control the reality warping, watch out. Come to think of it, it's a good idea to run like hell when they can control their powers. At the end of the day, none of this is really all that special. Standard stuff.
Yep.
But hold on, this is where things get really weird.
Really?
Most people just accept the way things are, take it at face value and forget about it. Get on with their lives. But you talk to the really smart people, the ones who have done some thinking and investigation, and they look plain scared, freaked out. So, that technology the technology that powers the faster-than-light drive, the Ansible, the technology that animates the self-aware artificial intelligences and give them life. I'll let you in on a secret. That's all just hocus pocus, a sham. Nobody can explain why it works exactly. Mostly, Talk to the really smart people behind closed doors, away from surveillance, and they'll tell you a different story. Some among us have reason to suspect that the same force or magical energy that allows the change to warp reality is also the driving force behind faster than light travel, instantaneous transport, and that creates sentience in artificial people. It's not that the technology in these devices creates these effects. No, it simply opens the door for the magical energy to pour through. To be sure, no one can navigate and pilot a starship like one of the changed. Have you ever seen how one of them almost falls into a trance at the helm? I have. Spooky. So yeah, that's strange, but not enough to keep you up at night. Trouble is, evidence suggests that this power isn't just some sort of force or energy, but an actual intelligent force. Not just one, but sentient beings, possibly with their own agendas. People that can harness magic, well, they are just the right psychic shape to let the other things work through them. Who's really harnessing who? Ever think about that? What about artificial intelligence? Perhaps the androids serve more like receptacles or like some kind of vessels for something that was just waiting. It scares me when I think of just what they were waiting for. And now they walk among us in mechanized bodies far stronger than any human being. That's concerning, but it's not the real problem. No one talks about it openly, but sometimes, well, sometimes these personalities or creatures or whatever the hell they get out, break into our reality completely. Then there's real trouble. The kind of real trouble that destroyed the ancient vanished civilizations that we loot now for their trinkets. That's the kind of stuff that might keep a person up at night, even a person like you.
Yeah, so that's kind of the genre mashup I came up with. Kind of a little wacky thing that has just a little bit of everything. So I'm not really sure if it's a genre mashup or just a bunch of IP mashups or what the hell it is. But I kind of like that. It has a little bit of everything in there. It's a game world I like to play in. I don't know about you, but that's my answer. How about that? Thanks, Karen.